The honourable member for New Westminster Coquitlam is rising on a point of order.
This might be my last opportunity to stand and speak as a Member of Parliament since the House will adjourn here tomorrow, and I want to announce that I will be resigning my seat on April the 13th. You and I were first elected, Mr. Speaker, in the 1988 election. Although I must say I'm rather envious of your win-loss record. I've had a couple of losses along the way, and you've maintained your seat right since 1988. It's been an enormous pleasure and an honour to serve the people of New Westminster, Burnaby, Coquitlam and Port Moody, Mr. Speaker. When I was first elected, Ed Broadbent was the leader of our party, and he remains a very close friend and a confidant. I was there when our party elected the first woman to lead a national party in this country, and I was, and I still am, so proud to have served with Audrey McLaughlin. She's a woman of tremendous courage and determination. She's also continued to provide me with encouragement and support over these years, Mr. Speaker. I've also been very honoured to be part of an NDP caucus led by the member for Toronto Danforth. His boundless energy, his ability to think outside the box and to take the road less travelled has been an inspiration not only to me, but also to many, many Canadians. I'm proud of my record, Mr. Speaker. I introduced a private member's bill that was adopted by this House to declare December 6th a National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women. I was part of a committee that initiated, that I suggested do a groundbreaking study on the issues, all of the issues around breast cancer, and led to real changes in the treatment of women and their families with that disease. I brought forward as a private member's bill anti-stalking legislation, Mr. Speaker, that the government of the day then reflected back and passed into law, and that's now part of the Criminal Code of Canada. Mr. Speaker, I have a couple of other private members' bills on the books right now, and I invite the government side to take them over and present them as their own legislation on body armor and on non-returnable warrants, Mr. Speaker. I know that I may ask for Mr. Speaker, the highlight for me of the 39th Parliament was an opportunity to travel to Afghanistan with the Defence Committee to meet with the men and women who are serving in the Canadian forces there. I was so impressed by their determination, their skill, their high level of training, and their commitment to Canada and commitment to the job they were being asked to do. We wrote in the committee, in the Defence Committee, a report on the war of Afghanistan. I won't be a surprise to most of you, presented a dissenting opinion on that report, but I want to say to you, I believe that report, that dissenting report, is as valid today as it was 2 years ago when I wrote it, Mr. Speaker. I mention these achievements because too often Canadians think there is no effective role for an opposition member of Parliament. Some think you can't achieve anything, Mr. Speaker, and I believe it's very important for Canadians to know that all of us in this place can and do achieve real results for ordinary Canadians. Canadians only see question periods reflected in the news cycle, so they can be forgiven for thinking that Parliament is a nasty kind of sandlot filled with testosterone-driven egos. The truth is that for all of us, on both sides of the House, we have more in common than what divides us. We do disagree on some fundamental policy issues, and that is an important part of our democratic system. I hold to my values as a social democrat. I hold them very strongly, just as others in this House, in this place, hold different views. I only wish, Mr. Speaker, that we could debate these differences with a bit more civility. I urge all my colleagues to tone down the insults and the abuse. What has been hurled back and forth across the floor here has often lacked wit and wisdom. This place has become less civil over the past few years, and I believe that this is evident in the increasing cynicism We hear from voters, all of us hear from voters, when we go door to door, and it's ultimately dangerous for our democratic system. Mr. Speaker, there's one other issue I must draw attention to, and that's the glacial rate of progress towards gender equality in this place. The first woman MP, Agnes MacPhail, was elected in 1921. This was a breakthrough, Mr. Speaker, for my grandmother's generation. My mother wasn't even born then. And now in 2009, women represent just over 22% of the House of Commons. We've hovered around 20% for the last 15 years. At this rate of progress, and I've used the most up-to-date scientific calculations to determine this, it will take until December 4th of 2100 to reach parity. And that's darn near 100 years from now, and it's simply not good enough.
That's right.
I urge all political parties in this House to get with it. Nominate more women. After all, we are more than 50% of the population of this country. It's well past time. Our Parliament must more accurately reflect the Canadian population in every way. I just want to conclude, Mr. Speaker, with a few words of thanks. And I want to thank, and I'm trying not to get emotional, but I want to thank the clerk, Audrey O'Brien, for all the assistance she's been to me over the years. It's a huge privilege for me to serve in the Parliament with the first woman to ever hold this prestigious and very important position. I want to thank my staff in the constituency office, and all of you know about this. They're the frontline people. They're the ones who face the sometimes angry constituents, the people who have issues around some of the government policies. They work so hard, and I want to thank them for all the work they've done for me over the years. And my staff on Parliament Hill, without whom I know I would not have been nearly as successful as I've been over the last few years. So thank you very much. I also want to thank some of the support people on the Hill, Mr. Speaker, the drivers, the food services people, the postal workers, the messengers, the clerks, the interpreters, the security guards. All of these wonderful people make it possible for all of us to do our jobs. I know that I could not have been nearly as effective without their help. And I want to thank my husband, Peter, who sometimes has taken abuse because of the road I've traveled and my choice to run for political office. I know at one point, while canvassing for me on the doorstep, one angry man said to him, "What kind of man are you? How do you allow your wife to do such a thing?" I know that's been tough, and it's been hard to have me away, and I appreciate his support for all these years. David and Stuart and their terrific partners, and my 7 very brilliant grandchildren. There's some things I won't miss, Mr. Speaker. I won't miss the weekly flights from BC. I won't miss the jet lag, Mr. Speaker, but there is much I'll miss here. I'll miss my colleagues on both sides of the House. I'll miss the work, especially at committee, where great things sometimes are accomplished. I wish all of my honourable colleagues in this place great wisdom and great compassion as they face the crisis that is affecting Canadians today. And finally, I want to thank the voters of New Westminster Coquitlam for putting their faith and confidence in me, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
We will miss you, Donna.
Order, I believe the Honourable the Minister of Canadian Heritage is going to want to say a few words here, but we'll just wait a second perhaps.